Hey Graham, did you get, I had a folder back there on that table. You didn't see it? I had a folder back there on the table. You didn't see it?
Who's missing?
Just Gavin.
4, 5, 6,
He went to get some water.
Okay. That's nice. I'm glad it's me. Yeah, brother. That's going to be together. Just think about that.
Yeah, she told, I told her to make them both, yeah.
1, 2, 3. Real good.
Hey, Suzanne.
Okay. So, just but no, I could take it out. Let me start with Suzanne. And you start with that.
President. Well, that's something we're not even. Well, I'll tell you. What's the story of the book?
Hey, it says so if I got the car. I'm coming over.
All right.
What did it have in it? What did the folder have in it?
It was just 2 sheets of paper. One was a set of minutes, and it's okay.
I don't know if he's looking for that.
It's on our Facebook page. Facebook
Oh, I
page.
have that. I'm talking about something else.
Oh, okay, cool.
Bless you guys ready?
Yeah, we ready.
Good, you ready? Good evening. The Monday, January 8th, 2018 Common Council meeting is now in session. Our invocation is by Pastor Jason Miller of South Bend City Church. Thank you, sir, for coming.
Thank you, Council. Before we pray, I just say it's my honor to offer a prayer that I hope that has room for all of us. And let's pray. Loving and almighty God, we pray with great affection for the city of South Bend, with great affection for the diverse members of our community, and for the rich history and the hopeful future that frame the moment that we occupy right now. So thank you, God, for the blessing we share as a common South Bend home. And we pray with sober minds because there are challenges to confront, from increased violence in our city in the year that we've just had, to a nation grappling with political and ideological division every day. And so I ask you, God, to inspire our leaders with a shared vision, and to grant the members of the council great wisdom, and to lead us into a future where every person in our city is given every opportunity to flourish. We pray humbly and grateful in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. If you would, please turn your cell phone to silent. Ms. Fowler, roll call, please.
Councilmember Preston.
Present.
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Broden.
Here.
Councilmember Varner, excused. Vice President Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Vorty.
Present.
Councilmember Furlick.
Here.
Councilmember White.
Present.
President Scott.
Present.
8 present.
Thank you. This time we will delay report on some committee of minutes. Mr. Varner is not here. We will turn to special business. Ms. Fowler, 1801, please.
1801, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, commemorating and celebrating the life and public service of Beverly D. Crone.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Yes. Good evening. I'm Oliver Davis, 1801 Nashville, South Bend, Indiana. Tonight, I'm glad to be joined by our distinguished ladies on the Common Council in honor of Miss Beverly Crone. As you see the picture that is posted or up is the time back in 2013 when we honored all of the ladies at the time who were alive, who were on the city council, who came that night, and it was a joyous night as we celebrated them. There was Miss Brayboy, of course, who had already passed, and I believe there's maybe one more I forgot who had also passed. But you see that Ms. Crum joined us that night, and it was a joyous night. And so tonight, and we're glad that her family, all three of her sons and their family, we'd like to invite her sons and the family members and all those who came in support.
Would you please come up?
We have, you can come forth as we read this to you. We have Judge Crum, Larry Crum, Gary Crum, all three of them. Gary, thank you for changing your schedule. I know you're trying to leave out, but thank you for that. So we're glad that they could all come tonight, and as we read Resolution 8-1. And so, Ms. White, you can lead the way.
Okay. Okay. A resolution of the South Bend Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, commemorating and celebrating the life and public service of Beverly D. Crum. Whereas, after 20 years in bookkeeping and accounting, Beverly D. Crum first saw elected office as a member of the South Bend Common Council in 1979, and whereas Beverly was successful in her bid and was elected as a council member at large and re-elected in 1983, and
whereas Beverly Beverly chose to leave the Common Council after 2 terms to fill a vacancy in the St. Joseph County Auditor Office. And whereas Beverly became the first woman to serve as the St. Joseph County Auditor, a position for which she was elected for 2 terms and held for 10 years. And
Beverly chose to leave Beverly was again successful in her bid, and along with Cindy Bodel, became the first woman to serve as a St. Joe County Commissioner. And Beverly served 2 terms as a county commissioner, including a term as the first woman president. And whereas Beverly's dedication to public service is demonstrated by the 13 elections in which she ran, all successfully. And whereas Beverly received many awards during her lifetime, including the Sagamore of the Wabash Award from the governor of Indiana, and I think it's 2 governors of Indiana, to make a quick correction. The Women's Fest Lifetime Achievement Award, the Ideal Baldoni Distinguished Achievement Award, together with the keys to the City of South Bend and Mishawaka, as well as St. Joe County. And whereas the many physical manifestations of Beverly's public service include the Beverly D. Crum Park, the Thomas N. Frederick Juvenile Justice Center, the Mishawaka A.M. General Plant, the IN Tech facility, and the restored 1855 St. Joe County Courthouse. And
whereas Beverly's legacy will continue not only through her good works in the local community, but also through the lives of her children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and all others who love and admire her. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, as follows. Section 1. The South Bend Common Council proudly commemorates and celebrates the life and achievements of one of the community's great citizens, Beverly D. Crum. Section 2. The Common Council offers Beverly's family and friends its most sincere condolences on Beverly's recent passing on December 31st, 2017, after a lifetime of public service. Section 3. This resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its adoption by the Common Council and approval by the Mayor.
Thank you.
again, it's truly an honor to serve with my colleagues as we take the time to honor a distinguished woman. You know, when you look at a person's life, there's an old hymn that says, "Let the life that I live speak for me." And all throughout this whole city and throughout this whole community, we can see that her life and her legacy is speaking for her. And it continues to speak for her in the life of her sons and their family. And so I'm grateful and honored, and I'd like for my colleagues, I know Karen's struggling, that's all right. Let's start with you, and then we have them share, and then we open it up.
It's indeed been an honor to be part of this resolution on behalf of such a wonderful, outstanding lady. Her legacy does speak for itself. And also I've had the opportunity throughout my years of public service and working with Beverly. She is a woman of honor. She's very honest. She tells you like it is. She's a hard worker, and she's committed not only to excellence, but she's committed to this community. And we have been the beneficiaries of her great work.
Thank you.
Being new to public service, being a woman, and having the opportunity to serve in some of the same capacity that she has, I really look forward to learning more about Ms. Crone from my colleagues, people who serve with her. It's an honor to be a part of this resolution, to just be able to recognize someone who's really forged a pathway for women in public office here in our community. Thank you.
So proud to be a member of this council that is taking tonight especially to recognize, and formally, once again, to recognize Bev's tremendous contribution to our city, to our county, and really to our state in terms of her public service, not only just bringing an amazing skill set, but also just a fabulous disposition of, really understanding issues, attentiveness to the public, and just the true service. And I know that comes from her life of faith, and I also know it's enabled by a family that shared her so generously. So I would be remiss not to thank you, gentlemen, and the larger family at whole, because when someone serves with her length, breadth, and depth, and longevity, it really is a family commitment and a family project. And she was, and will always be a trailblazer for council members, regardless female or male, and public servants in general. Very, very tough shoes to fill. I think anybody who has followed after her, I love the picture tonight that actually has her in her tennis shoes, because I think very few people could keep pace with her. So that's just really a very fun picture tonight. But as I said, proud, terrific legacy. Condolences to you and your family, and thank you very much. Thank you, fellow council members, and Oliver Davis for your terrific work and actually inviting me to speak. And I know my comments are also shared by my husband, John, who also dovetailed with many, many years of service, not only to the community, but also within the Democratic Party, which was close to Bev's heart as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Broden. Would anybody from the family like to say anything at this time? Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, thank you. My name is Terry Crone. I live at 418 Shoemaker Drive in Carmel, Indiana, formerly of South Bend, Indiana, until I was forced to move south as a result of a job change. On behalf of the family, I would like to thank you for the resolution. It's very gratifying to see people remember Mom and respect the work that she did. Things were a lot different back in 1979. She had a full career, raised her kids before she decided to try to get into public service. And back in those days, not only were there a lot fewer women, and it was a lot more difficult path for women than it is today, but you did things differently. And she and Dad and I sat down at the kitchen table to what we used to call a kitchen table campaign back then, because you didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
And one of the things you did back then was, particularly when you were newcomers, you tried to come up with a slogan that people would associate with you and differentiate you from the others. And Mom's slogan that she came up with at that time, which we used through all 13 of those elections, was, the key to good government is participation. And anybody who knew my mom knew that she didn't say anything that she didn't mean and believe. And so I'm very proud of the fact that she decided to participate in our government and believes that government requires people to be active and participate in order to operate properly, and that means you have to work hard. She worked very hard. She was very knowledgeable, and that was a function of her work, and I believe that many of the things that she did and the respect that's been expressed through this process is a result of the fact that she was more interested in getting things done than she was interested in taking credit. She didn't care whose idea it was. She worked with people on both sides of the political spectrum and tried never to make a permanent enemy, and understood that politics is a game of inclusion, not exclusion. And while we may not agree today, if you treat people with dignity and respect, you may be able to work with them tomorrow to accomplish something else. And that's my comments on behalf of my mother and her participation as a councilman and service. And again, thank you very much for this honor.
Thank you so much. At this time, I'll turn it to council. Is there anything council would like to say, Gavin?
Sure, just condolences to the family and obviously leave behind a great legacy. I spoke with Dr. Varner on an unrelated matter in between committee and council, and he also wanted to share his condolences and say what a pleasure it was to know your mom. And yeah, thank you.
Mr. Gordy.
There's so many things to say, but I think we should acknowledge her fourth son, who lost really another mom when Bev passed, and that's Butch Morgan, who she helped raise and was really the fourth of you guys. I met Bev during that primary campaign in 1979, and like most at-large races, there were multiple candidates, and like usual, some had a chance and some didn't from the start. I mean, you just knew that. I gravitated toward Bev as we made our stops. In those days, it was the political clubs, Southside Democratic Club, Hungarian Democratic Club, River Park Democratic Club, things that no longer exist. And campaigning in those days too required factory gates and things like that. But I gravitated toward Bev to the point, at those functions, to the point where Phil, her husband, would come tug on my arm or Beverly's arm and say, "You got to talk to other people. You can't just talk to him all night." And I don't know if people remember, but when that primary election day was over and the votes were counted, Bev lost. Bev came in fourth in that three-way race for at large, and I was sick about it because, of course, I wanted to win, and I was one of the three. But the next morning, after the county election board counted all of the votes, Bev was declared winner. And there was nobody happier, I think, than her family, other than her family, than me, because sure gonna miss her.
I did not have the opportunity to know Bev. I love that saying, the key to good government is participation, and I've taken that from her now, so I appreciate that. My condolences. Mr. Kelly?
Also, terribly sorry for your loss. Remarkably distinguished career, and I want to echo the fact that she was also such a trailblazer. Again, terribly sorry for the loss, but thrilled with what she brought to our community, which we continue to enjoy this day.
Thank you. This time I'll open up to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come to the podium now.
Just had a knee replaced, so believe me with that.
Okay.
But anyway,
your name and address, please.
Beverly Beck, 1630 Randolph, South Bend.
Thank you.
And I served on the council with Bev, but I also go back to high school when she was in my sewing class. And I remember that she, instead of gabbing around like most of us did in sewing class, she sat there and worked on her work. She was so diligent, always at that time. Very kind of shy, but very, very sweet, and very bright. Very bright, always was. And we didn't always vote the same way on the council, but we both voted what we thought was best for the city. And we always got together afterward, talked about our kids and our grandkids and all that. And even until just a few years ago when her husband passed, I was so glad to see her again. And I really, they mix this up all the time. We were on the council with the two Bevs. And at that time that we won, we were only the third and fourth women to be on the city council. There was Janet Allen, Mary Chris Adams, and then myself. And then the next morning, I was glad to know that there was another woman on there. And things have changed a lot since then. Glad to know that, but I'll miss her terribly. And so sorry she had to go so soon, because she was my age and she could have been here a lot longer. Okay.
Thank you. Name and address, sir.
Jason Critchlow, 221 Marquette Avenue, South Bend, Indiana. I want to thank the South Bend Council, Vice President Councilman Oliver Davis, for considering this resolution today. As a young-ish sprout, it always amazes me. You know someone was an incredible person when you ask them about their Sagamore or the Wabash, and their response is, which one? I mean, to me, that's just hilarious. You know, you hope to get awarded one in your lifetime. But when you talk about someone like Beverly Crone, for someone like me, who was brought up politically, you could talk about legacy with the public works projects and the policies that she worked for, but from what I've always been surrounded with is the culture that I've come to know, even from her family and from her herself, on how she operated as an elected official. Number one, she never stopped campaigning, and that's what a lot of people were talking about, is she was always serving the public, and that was always an important lesson. But really, aside from the public works projects, it was that culture of it doesn't matter who you are, and in the end, what political party you are. It was about being dedicated to your community, doing whatever you had to do, and working with anyone you had to work with to move your community forward and get the things done, working together to get the things done that you know needed to be done to help everyone in that service that she created. And I know that was passed on to her family, and that's really the culture that I've always been surrounded with. So thank you for sharing her with us, and that's the legacy that I will always take with me and remember. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against, we have to ask. With that, turn it back to council.
Motion to adopt by acclamation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Passes.
Jen.
Joe, you know I'll take a picture of that. Yeah, each one of them, all on one side. Can y'all come up to the picture? Come on, everybody, come up. Jason, come up, we all want to take a picture together. Joseph, right over there.
Oh, thank you. That's our son. Thanks.
Hey, Terry. Taking the picture of the family.
Yes, thank you.
I'm here to help.
We did a lot of things. Thank you so much.
Go for the brothers in the middle. Brothers in the middle.
Can you? We can get, someone wants a copy, but I was wondering if I could take theirs and make sure that we're good. I have an extra. Okay. You do.
Y'all in the middle. Brothers in the middle, and then we will turn back around here.
And then you'll just do this one over.
I'm sorry.
You'll just do this one over.
For the edits. What was there at the other edits?
Okay. Do you have Jim Morrell's phone number? Do you have Joe's phone number?
Yes.
Can you call me quick? What do you need? My phone's not working. You need to call Machine Access TV because they're not going live.
They're not going live?
Apparently.
Here, I can call.
No, I'm calling Joe.
Sorry, what were you saying?
No, the family was. So I said, if I take this one, you can make another.
Yep. So how many more do we need?
You just need to have the one for our file.
Right.
But if I give this away, you can get this again, right? That's what I'm asking you. You said
No,
you had
because
an
this is like
extra.
the copy with the original signature.
Okay. So can we just make a copy of that before they leave? Okay. Yeah, do it now. Yeah, so we give it to them before they go.
Something else on the market. So it's actually.
You got it? Okay.
What's going on? But
I'll call Nick. I'll call Nick now.
You have his number?
Yeah.
Do you want me to call him? My phone's dead. It's not working. It's not turning on. I don't know what's happening. Yeah, it's outside. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I didn't get any of that. It's black screen.
If he answers. If he doesn't, just give it back and I'll text him. He'll probably respond.
Thank you.
Super real life.
What's that?
Really, Fred?
I've got a company. Seriously, let's talk. Seriously.
You ready to go? At this time, we do not have any reports from city offices. Susanna Fritzberger is representing the city. Welcome. Thank you. Happy New Year. With that, I'll entertain a motion to join the committee of the whole.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I just stay.
Yeah.
Well done.
Committee of the whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council meeting where the full council sits as a committee. During each ordinance, members of the public will have an opportunity to speak either in favor or in opposition. Your comments will be limited to 5 minutes per bill. With that, the city clerk, please read 6917.
6917, public hearing on an ordinance to vacate the following described properties. Street vacation, Eddy Street from Corby Street, 180 feet. Corby Street from Eddy Street west, 90 feet. Corby Street from Eddy Street east, 230 feet. The first east-west alley between Howard Street on the west and the first north-south alley east of South Bend Avenue, South Bend, Indiana.
Thank you. Is there a committee report, please?
The Public Works and Property Vacation Committee heard this afternoon, but sends it to the council with no recommendation.
Is there a presenter, please?
Yes, my name is Greg Sharon. I'm with Dan Charner Associates here in South Bend, 1643 Commerce Drive. Here tonight representing Five Corners LLC for the 4 right-of-way vacations that were just read into the minutes. The purpose for these vacations is for future development. Right now, there's no particular plans of what's to be developed. I believe the property is zoned residential, so right now, what can be developed is residential without coming back to this committee for rezoning. In the pre-board meeting, there was some mention of the easement agreement that was written for Spalding, a property owner adjacent to the Corby right-of-way that's to be vacated, which gives her the right to encroach into or have access into that right-of-way that's been vacated. And per that meeting, it was stated that it would be in the minutes that it also would give Banyos, Mr. Banyos or his assigns, the right to use that easement. So I just wanted to make that, put that in the record, and if you would like that to be a part of the agreement, access agreement, that could be written in as well. So if there's any further questions regarding these vacations.
Question. For our attorney, is that good enough for it to be considered in the record? Or
Yes.
does he have to say it anything else, any other way, or are we good?
It's good enough for the record, but it would be stronger if we had a written agreement filed with the clerk's office.
Okay. We can,
Much like the Spalding
yeah,
agreement.
we can amend this agreement and put Mr. Banyos or his assigns into this document. We can do that.
So action tonight could be contingent upon that agreement?
Yes.
Subject to.
Okay, subject to it.
Yeah, it'd be a condition that preceded the enforcement or the adoption of the ordinance.
That makes sense. I appreciate that.
Any other questions from council at this time?
No, just comment. I mean, I think that really addresses a lot of the issues with regard to city services, and it should mutually benefit both the developer and the adjacent neighbors in particular. So
Right.
I commend everybody for working something out here that will be workable now and in the future. So thanks.
Great.
Great. With that, we'll close, we'll open the public portion.
Okay.
And I was going to say close the council portion, open the public portion.
I got you.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Please state your name and address.
Emily Spalding, 1140 Kirby Boulevard. I am the adjacent neighbor. I want to thank Joe Broden for hearing our voice the last time we came together to discuss this matter. I feel that our voices have been heard. I want to thank Five Corners, Michael Dance's company for taking the time out of their days to meet with us. On 2 different occasions, we were able to come to an agreement, and so we have no problem with this, and good luck to Five Corners in your development.
Thank you.
Seeing no one else in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Back to the council. And I would advise to make a recommendation subject to written commitments.
So moved.
I'd like to make a recommendation
Yeah.
that the hourly vacations be, that the petition be favorable, and it's be subject to the written agreement.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 8517?
8517, public hearing on an ordinance initiated by the Area Plan Commission of St. Joseph County, amending Chapter 21 of the South Bend Municipal Code, Article 9, administration to update procedures for zoning map amendment, variances, special exception uses, and written commitments associated with the Area Board of Zoning Appeals. Applications, Article 11, definition to further define the zoning administrator as the executive director of the Area Plan Commission, and Article 12, flood plan regulations to designate the building commissioner as the flood plan administrator.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, the ZNA met this afternoon, and we bring this to you with a favorable recommendation.
Is there a presenter, please?
Good evening, Angela Smith from the Area Plan Commission. The offices are located in the Willis Building. This text amendment is sort of an administrative cleanup and a way to transition the zoning administration from the building department to the Area Plan Commission. The first portion deals with how rezoning petitions are filed. For all of 2017, we had an expedited process where people filed with the Area Plan Commission instead of the clerk's office, and we handled a lot of the paperwork for them. This tidies up and catches the ordinance up to the current procedures we've been using for the last year. And then the other part of this ordinance is any place where the building department was listed as where Area Board of Zoning Appeals should be filed or written commitments related to such should be filed. We were changing that to the Area Plan Commission. There was one instance where we needed to change from zoning administrator to the building commissioner for the floodplain. Chuck Bulow, as the building commissioner, will retain floodplain administration. So that's all handled in this ordinance, and this comes to you from the Plan Commission with a favorable recommendation. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council at this time? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Back to the council. What's your pleasure?
Move for favorable recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 8617?
8617, public hearing on an ordinance initiated by the Area Plan Commission of St. Joseph County, amending Chapter 21 of the South Bend Municipal Code, Article 10, enforcement by adding the Area Plan Commission to the designated enforcement staff.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, DNA met, and we bring this to you with a favorable recommendation.
Angela Smith from the Area Plan Commission, office is located 11 Flores Building. This section deals with the enforcement chapter of the ordinance. We wanted to treat this separate from the last text amendment just so we had a better opportunity to work with code enforcement and the building department to help define the proper roles. What this essentially does is allows the Area Plan Commission as the zoning enforcement agency along with the building department and code enforcement. Anything that was previously under the primary responsibility of code enforcement will be retained, and the building department will still have the authority to enforce any of the ordinances that they need to as well. This comes to you from the Planning Commission with a favorable recommendation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, back to the council.
Move for favorable recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. City Clerk, would you please read 8717?
8717, third reading on an ordinance initiated by the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 21 of the South Bend Municipal Code, Article 13, Historic Preservation Commission, in connection with the transition of Historic Preservation staff to the City of South Bend under an interlocal agreement between the City of South Bend and St. Joseph County.
Is there a committee report?
Yes, the DNA met, and we bring this to you again with a favorable recommendation. That's the kind of movie we're in today.
Their presenter, please.
Angela Smith from the Area Plan Commission's office is located on the 11th floor. This has to do with what was before you late last year, the transition to the Historic Preservation Commission. There's a chapter of the zoning ordinance that deals with the day-in responsibilities of that department. There were many things that needed to be adjusted just to handle the day-to-day activities. Was written actually by and highly vetted by all the attorneys involved, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Comes here with a favorable recommendation. Sorry.
Just for the record, that was Gavin's committee.
That was my committee.
He was chairman. I happened to be on it, but I do apologize. So that's, yeah, it was the same recommendation. We all good.
There's a crew. It's a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission still. So.
Yeah, I'm so used to saying all your stuff that maybe it was that.
Any questions from council?
Yeah.
Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, council, what's your recommendation?
I'd like to send 8717 to the full council favorably, if it's okay with whoever's heading that committee.
Yeah. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to rise and resolve from the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I didn't get the gavel.
Oh,
You get the
yeah,
gavel.
come on.
Order between the 6th district and at large.
I really didn't do it.
Please. We don't want to start a rules committee.
Sorry, I thought I didn't have my glasses, but still.
Ms. Fowler, would you please give third reading to 6717?
Just a moment. I'm lost.
And just point of order.
60.
6717 for the council members, just to recall, we heard the fiscal plan, the second reading on those last time, first and second. So this is the third and final vote. So, Ms. Fowler.
Thank you. 6717, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, annexing and bringing within the city limits of South Bend, Indiana, and amending the zoning ordinance for property located in German Township, contiguous therewith, Councilmanic District Number 1 for 24605 Cleveland Road, South Bend, Indiana.
Motion for passage.
Second.
Ms. Fowler, roll call.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty?
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 6917.
6917, third reading on an ordinance to vacate the following described properties. Street vacation, Eddy Street from Corby Street, 180 feet, Corby Street from Eddy Street west, 90 feet, Corby Street from Eddy Street east, 230 feet, the first east-west alley between Howard Street on the west and the first north-south alley east of South Bend Avenue, South Bend, Indiana.
Entertain a motion to amend as it was in the committee of the whole.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Councilmember,
Motion for passage, subject to written commitments?
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Councilmember Broden?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty?
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Preston?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 8517, please.
8517, third reading on an ordinance initiated by the Area Plan Commission of St. Joseph County, amending Chapter 21 of the South Bend Municipal Code, Article 9, Administration, to update procedures for zoning map amendment variances, special exception uses, and written commitments associated with the Area Board of Zoning Appeals application. Article 11 defines to further define the zoning administrator as the executive director of the Area Plan Commission. And Article 12, floodplain regulations to designate the building commissioner as the floodplain administrator.
Motion for passage?
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Broden?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty?
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick?
Aye.
Councilmember White? Councilmember White?
Oh, aye.
Councilmember Preston?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 8617, please.
8617, third reading on an ordinance initiated by the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 121 of the South Bend Municipal Code, Article 13, Historic Preservation Commission, in connection with the transition of historic preservation staff to the City of South Bend under an interlocal agreement between the City of South Bend and St. Joseph County.
Motion for passage?
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty?
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Preston?
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly?
Aye.
Councilmember Broden?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 8717, please.
8717, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend approving a petition of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals.
No.
We just read 80, the one you just voted on, you read 8717. You'll need to read 8617, because the one you just kindly voted on was 8717. Basically what I'm trying to say is, when they asked you to read 8617,
You read 8717.
That is
Oh.
correct.
Yep. 8617, please.
Okay.
So read 8617.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Third reading on an ordinance initiated by the Area Plan Commission of the St. Joseph County, amending Chapter 21 of the South Bend Municipal Code, Article 10, enforcement by adding the Area Plan Commission to the designated enforcement staff.
Motion for passage?
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
All right, 8717, Councilmember Vorty.
86.
8617, Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furlick.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Preston.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Broden.
Still aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes.
8717.
We did. We voted on it.
Okay.
That was the one that went out of order, I guess.
All right.
Resolution.
Resolutions. At this time, I entertain a motion to continue indefinitely 1775.
Moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. First reading, Ms. Fowler, 0118.
0118, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 2, Administration, and Chapter 6, Building of the South Bend Municipal Code by removing zoning administration from the Area Board of Zoning Appeals from the responsibilities of the Building Department and removing associated fees.
I move this be sent to the Zoning and Annexation Committee and set for second reading and public hearing on 1/22.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. 0218, please, Ms. Fowler.
First reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds for the purpose of providing funds to pay certain capital projects and incidental expenses in connection therewith, and an account of the issuance of bonds and all matters related thereto.
I move this be sent to the Personnel and Finance Committee and set for second reading and public hearing on January 22nd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. 0318,
0-18, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating the proceeds of the City of South Bend General Obligation Bonds, Series 2018.
I move that this be sent to the Personnel and Finance Committee and set for second reading and public hearing on the 22nd of January.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. 0418, please.
0418, first reading on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance and seeking a special exception for property located at 2104, 2108, and 2112 East Mishawaka Avenue, and 914 and 918 South 21st Street, Councilmanic District Number 3 in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
I move this be sent to the Area Plan Commission for their meeting on the 20th of February and sent to the Zoning and Annexation Committee for our meeting for second reading and public hearing on the 26th of February.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. 0518, please.
0518, first reading on an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance for property located at 3527 Lincoln Way West, Councilmanic District Number 1 in the City of South Bend, Indiana.
I move this be sent to the Area Plan Commission for their public hearing on the 20th of February and our Zoning and Annexation Committee for second reading and public hearing on the 26th of February.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Moved to unfinished business and dismissed. Joe Broden.
Yes, just to bring to everyone's attention, I think I've already sent it, but you should all have in your inboxes, email that is, a couple resolutions being considered by the Solid Waste Management District, and this would be follow-up to the presentation that Randy Sheebish had given to us as a council last time, specifically as it relates to a contract that is before the board and being contemplated is a 10-year contract, but with a 5-year out clause, if you would, and other resolutions. I'm sorry, I'm doing this from memory, and it was pretty early this morning. The other resolutions were related to household hazardous waste, and before you and in your packets, there's one that contemplates charging everyone in the county, and the other one contemplates just a fee that would be for folks who are recipients of curbside services. So, but within both resolutions, it's the same dollar amount. So the impact of one decision versus the other of those two resolutions would certainly be a budget impact. So I would just encourage everyone to take a look at those. And please feel free to get back to me at this time as our representation on the Solid Waste Management District. There will be, in all likelihood, it will be called to a vote right away at the next meeting because there's been ongoing discussions at previous meetings. And I think Councilmember Vorty came to today's meeting as an extra set of eyes and ears. And I'm also grateful for the department, Therese DeRoe and Eric Horvath, who have been consistently and faithfully following all of the different iterations of this district.
I think the next meeting of the management board is February 12th.
12th, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. So you might want to reserve that on your calendar.
Okay. Anything else? Fun with solid waste?
What's that?
Fun with solid waste.
Fun continues. Never a dull meeting.
Any other unfinished business? Seeing none, any new business? Seeing none, we'll move to privilege of the floor. This time, under section 2-12, city council meetings, boards, and businesses, privileged floor, individuals may wish to address the councils, must state their name and residential address, having a limited 3 minutes, maximum time for this portion is 30 minutes. Gavin Furlick will keep time and give you an exit warning.
Sharon Benicki, 3822 Ford Street. Contrary to what you may have seen or heard on social media, most of the city is pleased with the response for the plowing that's happened. What they're not happy with is the call was not made yet to go with the snow alternate parking. And on the west side, even though our main streets are wonderful, the side streets are terrible. The police have been out red tagging cars, which are helping. But in the future, maybe if the call could be made sooner to go with the alternate parking, that would be amazing. I do understand we've had more snow than they're used to, and it's been in several years, but it is Indiana, and we do get lake effect. But I would like the plow drivers to be commended for, doing what they can do with what they've got. On to my next thing. Oliver, I've already reached out to you. The 3 at large, I'm going to be reaching out to you. 3800, 3900 block of Ford. We would love new curbs. Our sidewalks are fine. We will be losing them, though, if we don't do something with curbs. So keep us in mind when it's time for your allotment of money. Thank you.
Ms. Benicki, the council officially recognizes and congratulates you on a grant payment.
Thank you. Oh, he's such a cutie. Thanks.
Jason?
Yeah. Anything else on privilege of the floor? Seeing none.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Go dogs. So good looking.
Feel better. I have one in a little
I was at most of the next my dad's plane delayed twice. They finally left out around 11 o'clock last night and we got on at 1, so the car was a fire that they kept changing gates. Kept getting the good to the station. Thank God for her.
I hope it doesn't get cold.
What's your availability? Pretty open?
Oh, no.
If I get that call, see
At least we're not Boston.
Okay.
Boston, oh, that East Coast is a mess. All that flooding and stuff at the same time.
Thanks, Ram.
Here, you probably better get Tim.
Dojo Medina, Minnesota. Works with actually want to start out. So they're doing a big walk.